our second Objects and Methods lecture for the semester. We're super excited to have Hassan Rahim here. I'm just going to say a little bit about him before he takes it over. Hassan is an art director, artist, and designer originally from California, now working out of New York. His aesthetic deals in stark, esoteric imagery. It doesn't recoil from darkness. His direction and design have appeared on and range from magazines, gallery walls, record sleeves, concert stages, paths, street corners, and the internet. Often as distinctive and boundary-troubling as he himself is, his work embodies far-flung but carefully steeped influences arranged into thrilling new harmonies. I think something that I'm really excited about with Hassan's work is this sort of blending of subculture and thinking about how subculture kind of lives in visual culture now. Something that maybe some of you read on the AIGA essay in January was, at once goth and high fashion, Rahim's output merges polished photography and the highest production values with the kind of black letter typography once reserved for scummy heavy metal tour merch. His dedication to subdued and introspective visuals has gained him a large following and respect within and outside of the graphic design community. Let's welcome Hassan.
Thank you guys, I'm super welcome. This is wild. Actually, I've never went to school, I actually didn't finish high school, so to be on campus and see this warm welcome is really amazing to me, so thank you guys so much. So today I'm going to kind of walk you guys through 4 stages. One, I want to introduce myself and my work, a little bit of my background, where I'm from, and maybe just like a couple slides of projects. But the main topic here is obsession, and why obsession is important to artistic qualities and being a designer, duality, and individuality. So how you find your voice through your own work and by channeling yourself.
Can everyone hear?
Yes.
Is it cool?
Can you guys hear? Sorry. A little louder? Yeah. Okay. Hello. So being that I'm self-taught, I thought it would be nice to sort of be resourceful with the presentation. I put everything on Dropbox. I'm like a really proud autodidact, so if we have any like conversations or ideas, I might just Google them. I might like pull up my laptop and find an image. It's gonna be pretty free. So, chapter 1, work, me. So, I'm from California. Here I am. This is in 1992. I was 5 years old. I went with my dad to go see, I think this is the opening day of Jurassic Park. So, in Costa Mesa. Michael Jordan is my hero, always was my hero. And I'm wearing a really rad OP hat, which I wish I still had. So, from California, you can kind of see the California in my style. It's really interesting to sort of hear what AIGA had to say about me, as well as what I looked like then, my upbringing, and what I'm into now, and realize that I was from California and not from anywhere else. California is a really nice, warm, fuzzy place, really optimistic and colorful. So I think fitting into California was really strange as I started to develop my own style and realized that I was into a lot of the things that a lot of people in California were, which is like, really bright, colorful stuff. I lived in Santa Ana, so Santa Ana is kind of like a suburb. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay, by the way? Okay, cool. Santa Ana is a suburb, like 45 minutes outside of LA in Orange County. Not much going on, not really an art scene or community or whatever. LA is the closest, like next closest place where everything was happening. So without having a car and being like 14, 15, it was through like MySpace, Angel Fire, Kazaa, Soulseek, and everything else that I could get my hands on, where I started to find the stuff that I was really into. These are sort of like the early, I would say not early, but intermediate social media websites. Anybody remember Soulseek?
That's what you.
So Soulseek was around because you could actually clone someone's entire computer and see all the files they had on their hard drive, which was amazing. So on a folder that they chose, So usually music, a lot of videos, PDFs, things like that. So from that, I just got obsessed. I just zoned in. I found my comfort online. I found communities of people, artists that were maybe in other remote locations. And you build communities. A lot of you were probably on like Super Future, Super Talk, things like that. Any other really popular forums or social media groups that you guys remember? Live journal? Yeah. Cool. So you guys know how important they were to someone that didn't have ready access to a physical version of any of these interests. So when I was around like 17, 18, I finally left Orange County, went to LA. That's when I actually started taking design seriously. So I was originally just uploading like little graphics on MySpace, like little vectors and things I did, just like 600 pixel JPEGs max, which was like your browser width anyways at the time. I was obsessed with skateboarding. I was a skateboarder. So I kind of like MySpace friended a lot of people in the skate industry. I was like, oh my God, that's like Mark Carroll, my favorite skater. And I found his MySpace page, nerding out. He's like, why are these fanboys adding me on MySpace? But eventually, I ended up being friends with the guy that ran a skateboard company called Diamond. And he just DM'd me on MySpace and said, hey, dude, do some graphics for Diamond. And I freaked out. Completely freaked out. I was like, wait, what? You can do this for a living and get paid and actually do what you want for a job. I was just working at a skate shop or like Nordstrom night shift, stocking clothes. So that kind of changed my perspective on things. So long story short, I hit him up and I said, hey, I will trade you graphics if I can stay with you for a month in LA so I can get out of Orange County. So it worked. I overstayed my welcome a little bit. But he got some really good graphics. A lot of them. So that's how I got to LA from Orange County. And I would say that was around 18. So between 18 to 23 is when I started to just refine my work and just start to discover myself and who I was. Not necessarily having schooling, it was always sort of, I'm learning on the field in a way. So it's either making my own projects, collaborating with friends, or through jobs that I'm doing, trying to find different methods and techniques that were my language. So I'll walk you guys through a few selection of some things, not in any chronological order. There we go. I'm gonna do this too. Enhance. I'm just gonna kind of like explain a few of these. So this is a more recent project. I did creative direction for a band called Wet. They're on Columbia Records. This is sort of like a good example of where my duality comes into play. The band's music is really lush pop, kind of like XX style, more acoustic. We wanted them to have like a really soft and sensual feel with undertones of darkness. So this photo for the cover was something I sketched and collaborated with photographer Milan Zernik. And came up with the idea. The album is called Don't You, by the way. So I think the image sort of explains itself. It's either the ghost of somebody or a relationship that ended or a dream. But this was more of like a sleeker version of a lot of the things that I'm probably known for. About 2 years ago now, actually Facebook reminded me with a memory. They're like, hey, 2 years ago today. This thing came out. So I was actually very fortunate to work on Marilyn Manson's latest album called The Pale Emperor. This was a really fun one because you guys all know who Marilyn Manson is. He's a very shocking, I guess, really like attention-grabbing, almost, I think, gag prank type of guy. Red carpet stunts all the time and wild lyrics and stage stunts, but he's a mature, older dude now. So the idea was almost like to rebrand him and make him feel more refined and elegant. So this was a full like identity project, art direction for the photos with Nicholas Allen-Coe, and got to do this really fun box set. So a lot of the materials here, you have to really hold it to understand it, but really wanted to like draw a dichotomy between his abrasiveness and this sort of sleek luxury feeling we wanted to go for. So all the textures, like the photos, are actually all coated in sandpaper texture. So inside of this envelope, when you pull them out, they actually start to abrase each other and actually get destroyed over time. On the other hand, there's actually some really nice like high-end gloss silk screens and like silver coats and UVs and stuff like this. So after a while in the box, these things start to get jumbled and messed up. And also there's a CD. So the CD had an ink that I actually had a contact PlayStation for, but that was wild. But actually it's a black ink, so when you put the CD in the player, it eventually turns white after heating up. So you pull it out and it's a white CD. It's getting hydrated real quick. There's a crazy moire, which I actually really like. Might have to redo an edition. Here's some digital collage work that I've been doing. It's kind of like a really experimental thing that ended up landing on some album covers for a friend's site band from Santa Ana called Feeding People. But it was funny because they wanted to use some really beautiful paintings for their artwork, but they're really young kids without the budget to get a painter to do something. So the idea was to be resourceful and go on Wikipedia and get paintings that are in the public domain. So here I took Hieronymus Bosch and Jean van Eyck paintings and collaged them into something completely more psychedelic and new. This is some personal work of mine. I really like to play with the idea of how things are framed. So this piece is actually a little bit dark in the meaning, but I think it has a bright, sort of fun approach. It's called Career Highlights. So, sorry, but so yeah, D Brown actually is a. This was his like famous slam dunk. I was kind of into basketball when I was a kid. Not anymore. I really hate sports growing up. Like skateboarding, there was really like a jock skater thing. Like you were one or the other. So when you're a kid, you love sports and Michael Jordan. So D Brown did this amazing dunk where he covered his face and slam dunked it, and that was the same year that the Challenger space shuttle failed the mission. So I just combined these images together. I'm gonna kind of skim through these so we don't lose time on that other stuff. But this is actually a really interesting one. So these are some of my like top players. These are all mint rookie cards that I cut up and pasted onto Wallace Berman's hand. Wallace Berman is a LA artist, sort of elusive favorite of mine. But he was all about collectorship as well. Yeah, sorry. Gonna talk louder, guys.
Thanks, Riley.
Did this poster for Jay-Z's tour. A lot of, pretty much a very darker approach from things he's done. Brian Rodinger is actually responsible for all the art direction on the larger scale, and I got to do some of the merchant posters as well. I'm just gonna flip through some of my personal work. This is an album cover for my friend, Techno Record. What's this? Okay. This is for my friends Eric Hu, maybe you guys are familiar with his work, and Harry Gassel. They have a magazine called Hawk, and they invited me to kind of just do anything, so I decided to buy ad space from them, and I bought classified ads and created this fake hotline, and each ad was different. So this one was actually for a fake film called Direct Connect Hotline, and it's funny because if you zoom in close, which we won't do, I wrote all my friends' names in the credits. These little details that are ridiculous. But I ended up getting a hotline and buying the phone number and creating like a directory and making cryptic recordings, so that was really fun. A little crazy. A recent album cover for Ganja Sufi, this is on Warp Records, and a couple more album covers. But yeah, so a little bit of my work, a little bit of my background, just so the ones that aren't familiar get to know. And yeah, I'm going to go on to the next section, obsession. So, this is a really awesome Jenny Holzer quote. Jenny Holzer is probably my top 3 artists. She works with words and creates these poems that are really beautiful. I think she's one of my favorites because I think by trade, if you were to look at her work, is a graphic designer. It's all typography. And let's go ahead and Google Jenny Holzer. So you guys are probably familiar with Protect Me From What I Want, or Abuse of Power Comes As No Surprise. These are some quotes that have been kind of going around in a lot of the civil unrest times. But her pieces are brilliant. She does a lot of projections, and anything with words. She's really with marquees. But monomania is a prerequisite of success. So monomania is obsession. And success doesn't necessarily mean a successful career or financial wealth. I think monomania, a prerequisite of success, meaning you are a successful artist or having a successful vision. So that's how I take this quote from her. And this is also on her BMW art car. If you guys, the ones that do know my work know I'm crazy about BMWs, so this is a really rad car. Yes. So it's from this car, which I will have one day, I hope. Or at least drive it around the block. So I'm going to pull up some notes real quick, guys. So I think with obsession, you can really tell when someone is obsessed with something by looking at their work. I think there's always an attention to detail and a level of nuance that is just very easy to catch. And you want to wonder, like, what was going through their mind and what were they infatuated with. You see recurring themes and stuff like this. So I wanted to draw attention to a few really obsessive artists. So, Kanye, really famous obsessive artist, right? Any stories you guys have heard about Kanye being obsessive? No, okay. Not that many Kanye fans, let's go. One example is changing the album title 4 times before its release within a 3-week period. I think it was called Waves. Swish. And then he said TLOP, and then The Life of Pablo. And then within a week, he changed half of the song's mixes and re-uploaded them to Apple Music and Spotify. And rumor has it from like friends I know that work in that circle, he had maybe over 100 mixed down versions of each song. So insane, from simple things to drums, to vocals, to just different mixes. How? Marina Abramovic. She's very obsessed. Anybody know much about her work? You know, she sacrifices her well-being most times and inflicts a lot of pain on herself for her work. She really lives it. She's about it, but she's extremely obsessed. What is the famous thing she did at the moment? The artist is present, right? Anybody know how she used the restroom throughout the whole day? Okay. Got it. That was actually a question I didn't know. So, thank you.
She said she never used it though. Like it was there, but she never used it.
The long dress though, right? Like, let's pull that up. Cool. I did not go to it. I lived in LA at the time. What year was this?
It was 2000, I was in grad school, so yeah, 2009.
Okay. So like the dress is too long, right? She has something. But she's a really good example of someone that's obsessed and goes the extra mile through many of her works. Specifically this piece where she repeatedly whips herself in the back until she can no longer take it.
Did she also, is she the same artist who presented herself in a gallery naked, sort of let people come in and...
Absolutely. That's a really good example of the work she did. So she presented herself naked in the gallery, and there were different tools to inflict pain. There was actually a feather, a wrench, and I believe a gun. And it was really crazy. It was an experiment on the social behaviors of people in a group. And it takes one person to sort of do the first painful thing, and all of a sudden she was in danger by the entire group of spectators in the galleries. Some people had their hand on the gun, others were ready to just keep hitting her because they wanted to see a reaction, and she was so sterile and didn't show any. So her obsession is very real for her work. Stanley Kubrick. Anybody know why he's very obsessive? Okay, so legend has it, Stanley Kubrick in The Shining made Shelley Duvall, who's the lady character, take over 100 takes of a specific scene. And possibly like 50 plus more of all the rest. This type of attention to detail is something where we want to figure out, is this type of obsession healthy? And where do you draw the line between obsession and insanity in artistry? And one question I have for everybody is, what are your obsessions? Maybe Nicole, you could start, and it'll influence everybody to...
Oh, geez. I feel like I have a lot.
If you could just pick one obsession of yours.
Like glitter text generators. I'm like on them every day, and then I have folders of just like random texts.
Nice.
Like, yeah. And I just watch it sparkle.
I like that obsession. Anybody else obsessions?
Plants.
Who said that? Plants?
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody have obsessions that are maybe less an object or maybe like an emotion or a feeling?
Order.
What's that?
Order.
Border?
Order.
Order.
Structure.
Structure. Awesome. Can you elaborate on that?
I just like things to be consecutive or sequenced or organized.
Cool.
So it's more behavioral but also visual.
Nice. Those are all good obsessions. So what are some of my obsessions? I do have a few. One is eBay. Anybody else an eBay fiend? All right, so some like Twitter people will know that I have a hashtag called eBay issues. And this is where I need to just like delete the app from my phone. Stuff like this pops up all the time. I don't have the money for this. But I think an obsession with being a collector and being infatuated with beautiful objects, it really leads you to almost gamble in a way, because eBay is, I really believe bidding is like gambling. I never bid on this car, but there's some things I did bid on or are on my current watch list. So Wallace Berman, I mentioned, one of my favorite artists. I'm always looking for ephemera and less like expensive objects and more things that really mean something or are culturally significant to some of my influences or movements that inspire my work. So this is an exhibition catalog from 1977. Looked rad, too expensive to buy it, add to the watch list. Bang & Olufsen phone.
Yes.
This is a rad. Any 80s people love this. And this is actually, do you know what this is? Who guessed? You should tell everybody what this is.
No, I just saw it on, actually that's on the eBay every day. eBay will like look at what you've been looking at and it'll recommend something, but it's
Which is bad.
But it's generator sometimes because it's not like it's not an intelligent generator, so it doesn't know how to not like multiple copy that. But like last week that multiple copied for me because I was looking at like ukiyo-e prints, so it just like pulled up like 15 like of this like one after another, and I was watching it and I like was looking at it right when people like were bidding on it, so you can like watch it come up on my night. So
Nice.
so I just watched that, like people bid on that if I was alone in my room. So that was cool.
That is really good. Do you know what the book's about? Okay, so I'm gonna Google that one for you guys actually. In March, and I bought this book, not the first edition, but so this is a really intense work he did in Tokyo, where it's like a really voyeuristic series. Teenagers and basically go to these parks in Tokyo and have sex at night. I think the culture there is a lot different than ours, obviously, sexually speaking and in general, but I think he found an interest in sort of like following some of these people and befriended some of them, and took a really beautiful photo series, which I find aesthetically pleasing, but also the concept is really wild. They're not too grotesque at all either, but really rare book, and that first edition popped up, which is cool. But those are some of my obsessions. Another obsession I have is BMW. So this is interesting because BMW is a really strange obsession, but it's something I didn't realize I was obsessed with until later on in my life. The reason being is because if I go back to this image, I'm just going to show a picture of me again. This was a really important time in my life, so personally speaking. My dad was like a very present role in my life at the time, and he worked really hard. He was my hero. he had a job at Northrop, so he was an engineer for F-16 jets, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world, even better than being the president. He worked really hard enough to buy this car he really wanted, and he would drive me around in it every Saturday, and Sunday he would take me to watch the planes take off from LAX. It's something that I always remembered forever, and that's an obsession that is not only an object or physical, it's an emotional obsession. It's something that I always want to try to feel again. So I think anytime I see a car like Jenny Holzer's car, which is obviously a double positive because it's a favorite artist in BMW, there's a certain nostalgia and a feeling that I'm obsessed with, and I really want to chase it all the time. There's a lot of, I would say BMW is also really important to Black culture as well. Being a young Black male growing up in a really low income neighborhood, it's less about having the actual luxury item, but it's the perceived feeling of luxury that you want to strive for and achieve. So if you actually look at people like Frank Ocean or Tyler the Creator or Vince Staples, which I will pull up, these are all guys that actually grew up pretty much in the same environment as me and in the same sort of circumstances. And it's kind of a funny coincidence that they all are attracted to the exact same like classic vintage BMWs as I am, as we all are. I think it's a perceived nostalgia and luxury that everyone wants to chase. Anybody remember this album? Yeah. So this was actually not Frank's car, so he was like still a writer at the time. The story with this album is he was a writer and he was signed to Def Jam, but this is something that he always strived to have. He was obsessed with this object. And the label shelved him because they didn't think his work was good enough for the commercial or whatever. He leaked this album on Tumblr as a Hail Mary to kind of just put some work out there. And then this became his first big record that everyone knows to this day. So when he got his first record deal, he went and bought this car. So about obsession, where do we draw the line between obsession and perfectionism? Anybody have like an idea or an opinion on that?
Our health.
Our health.
Perfectionism has like an end point.
What do you think that end point is?
Like perfectionism, I think you're striving towards a specific goal that you have in mind, but obsession is more of like it's in the process and the repetition.
Totally.
You can't end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think perfectionism is also a type of argument where maybe there's an artist that the question is the painting ever finished? You know, they always keep painting or trying to find something to revise. Maybe it's the same Kanye syndrome where you have 100 songs and the only thing that's going to make you finish it is the deadline to put the album out. So that's something that, you know, it is a big question mark, like where is the line between perfectionism and obsession? And I think the main thing is that within work and creative work, every human has the ability to see truth. So I think that's really important within work, and as graphic design students or artists, channeling your inner obsessions and finding out what those are is going to lead you to foster your creativity from within, and you're going to come up with the best ideas you ever have from doing so. So going back to Dropbox. So how are we on time right now? Okay. All right, great. Thanks. So, section 3 is duality. So, if obsession is the first step, then the completion of that process is nurturing, showing up, and being present. So, infatuation versus commitment. So, let's say I'm obsessed with an aesthetic or an idea. What's the next step? How do I execute this or act upon it? So, I think there are bubble thinkers and there are linear thinkers. I'm very much a bubble thinker. Is anybody else a bubble thinker?
Mm-hmm.
Probably most of us because we're creative. Linear thinkers are people that I very much envy because they can always see something through to the end. I definitely have OCD, and it's something that I've known for a long time. But I think that those are the type of qualities that as artists, instead of considering it an illness, you can consider it an advantage. So one challenge with duality is, and something that I'm sort of learning to understand as well, is how to be a bubble thinker, but also a linear executor. So the idea of being a bubble thinker is great when you're coming up with ideas, right? So maybe you're at the house or whatever, and you're just kind of boom, boom, boom. But it's important to snag one of those and then run with it in a linear fashion. That's basically intuition. I think another duality besides actual process is the different dualities in your work. I would say in my work, the dualities I strive for are which gallery you're with, and I just wasn't interested in all that, just being an introvert and not wanting to play that game at all. Being a designer formally and sort of by trade, that's why I've always been attracted to the work of, say, Barbara Kruger, which I will pull up on Google. You guys have definitely seen Barbara Kruger's work. Jenny Holzer, of course, very typography heavy work. John Baldessari. His artwork is very much like design, using images and references and circles and shapes and typography in a very minimal way. I've always been attracted to them. And Barbara Kruger, actually, as an example, she used to be a layout designer for a magazine, I believe in the 80s. It might have been like Bazaar or something like this, but she started as a designer and pretty much became a full-time artist. I had a friend tell me, I won't say his name, he's like, you guys might know who he is. Good friend though, but he said the world wants you to decide. And that really hit me. I actually disagreed a lot, and I thought about it for a long time, maybe a year or so. And I'm like, does the world really need you to decide if you want to be an artist or a designer? And I would say that maybe some of you will agree or disagree, but if you do focus your energy on one thing, maybe you're more likely to succeed at it or become better at it. But I think if you get to do a bunch of different things, your mind is healthy. And you'll create better work from operating within different zones. Is the window farting? You'll create better work from operating within different zones. What's interesting about the art world is I think the art world looks down upon artists that are designers. But us as designers, we look up at the art world, at the artists. You know, I think we aspire that. And actually, we had a really good conversation about this earlier as well. Let me find the note that I had from that. One thing about being an artist and designer and also blending emotion and intuition was maybe you want to have a project that's really something you cherish and is awesome, and maybe you get commissioned to do something great. You want to put your all into it to make it personal. But at the end of the day, as a designer, you're also a skill for trade in a way. So you might pour all of your energy into these projects and become something really personal. That's the difference between art and design. Art isn't really getting critiqued by a client. Maybe a gallerist is like very heavy-handed sometimes, but design, you're actually, in a way, providing it to someone as a service. So it's really important, and I actually ran into this but I learned a lot from this process. That I always, I think by nature, want everything to feel like a personal project. You want to own it, and you want to make sure it's amazing and is your full vision as well as someone else's. And that's what it should always be. You should always enter something wanting to be your best. But you have to understand that you got to be ready to be critiqued for something that is very personal. And that can be really difficult. I emotionally wasn't ready the first few times where I said, hey, I'm going to do this album artwork for a friend. And it's going to be very personal, and I'm going to go in. And then I sent it to them, and they're like, oh yeah, not really feeling it. Simple one sentence email, no subject, not really into it. Not ready for that, right? So this is something that we have to work through. Blending the emotion and the intuition, and learning to navigate that without sacrificing our emotion. How can we apply it in a useful way that's effective, without getting caught up in our feelings, and without letting yourself be open to, getting shut down and discouraged, which has happened to myself and a lot of friends of mine on larger scales. So that's an important duality that I want you guys to think about and also consider. qualities do designers have that artists don't have? Anybody? There's no answer. This is just open.
I think it's a lot more designers follow systems. And sometimes I went to painting for undergrad, and it was a lot more kind of like it was less systematic in the way that I saw a lot of artists approaching it. But not to say that artists don't use it. Artists are already might improve it, but just generally speaking, that's what I think.
Totally. Grid systems, margins, things like this. Website, all types of columns, cool. Font sizes. That's a good one. What qualities do artists have that designers don't? Who said that? What was it?
I said they're more broke, but in a good way.
True. Yeah. You can be more broke as an artist.
In a good way, though.
In a good way. How's it good to be more broke as an artist? Is it the freedom?
I mean, for real though, like, monetary value is kind of like a creative box, and you kind of have to like work within or like around it. So when you're working within like the hemisphere of this constantly, I think especially when you're like a young, I guess artist, and you're trying to like navigate between being a designer and a fine artist, like money is like something that which kind of ties into the role of like access and privilege and having your grandfather own like a yacht so that they can pay for your art school.
Yo!
But like you kind of have to really ask yourself like if you're ready to be like financially destitute so that you can make things that might not have a box around it as design might have.
Absolutely. Nice.
Go.
Yeah, really good. You want to trade? That's fine. That's great. That's amazing. I think that's one of the things that we want to work through is everyone that raised their hand and says they're an artist, how can we strive to be that and also be designers and make sure that we're happy with everything we want to do, and financial stability is a really important part of that because there are people that stay home and they get to do anything they want all day, but at a certain point you not only want to make sure you're being fairly compensated for your work, you want to make sure that it's being put out into the world and that people can access it and see it and have an impact. And because that's what we get out of it is the work to show. So those are a few dualities. I think one question for everybody is, what are your specific dualities? Internally, externally, aesthetically, formally, conceptually, and how can you synthesize these to create a really nice push and pull, tug of war, equally weighted scale of healthy creativity. Oh yeah, I actually forgot to show you guys. This is the image when someone said, this is when my friend said, the world wants you to choose. Ones who know. So the last part of this conversation I wanted to give you guys is, we have obsession and dualities and now individuality. So I'm going to open up with some images from Fruits magazine. Anybody familiar with Fruits? All right, Fruits magazine. The sad thing is this is why everything in Japan is amazing, because they take creativity so seriously and holistically, but they decided to shut down the publication, citing a lack of cool kids to photograph. So they said, why continue the magazine? There are no more cool kids. That is a really sad moment, and Nicole's a huge Fruits collector as well, and Ben, and we had a little Twitter moment, and we cried. So, Fruits was a really great magazine because they documented kids around Tokyo, in Harajuku and all types of neighborhoods, and truly individuals, and a lot of people will argue that these are all amalgamated from different moments and cultures, and of course they are. How's that an argument? That's a statement. It's very true. And that's what makes all of us individuals, is we take all of our interests, whether it's classical painting, and then rap, and then automobiles, or maybe plants, and then glitter, and blingies, you know, and it makes us a person, one individual person, with a BMW sweater and a blinged out hairpiece, and a plant brooch. So I think Fruits was like the ultimate publication of individuality, so those are just a few slides from Fruits. But in general, when you look at these really rad people, you can't really define what they are stylistically or what music they might listen to. You can kind of have a judgment, but basically it's okay and it's encouraged to not be able to describe your style. Yeah, I think if people can pin you down and tell you exactly what you are, you gotta hit the drawing board again. Or you have to go within a little bit deeper and discover what your individuality is. Because really, like, are music genres even useful in 2017? Not really, you know. When's the last time you were to like listen to an album that you really liked and say, this is alternative rock, this is rap, this is hip-hop? It's out the window now. It's all about individuality, and we're exposed to so much culture that it's up to us to, you know, become up to us. You really are yourself when you absorb the things that stick with you. So I think with individuality, recurring themes in your work. Anybody feel like they have a recurring theme in their work? Yeah, you first. Yeah, what would you say your recurring themes are?
A lot of my work, and usually like referencing like visceral anatomy.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Nice. Hold on, I lost my note. One second. So, I think another example of like, who else raised their hand for this? Well, recurring themes. Anyone? Yeah. What was that? Death. Interesting. I feel like that was also prescribed to me as well for my work, is like darkness and death. Caravaggio as well. Always like really intense paintings of murder scenes, but really beautifully done. I think that recurring themes are really important in your work. Not as something you prescribe to your work or try to find ways to fit in, but it starts to show what you're obsessed with. And it starts to show that you are infatuated with things. And there's something that actually drives you and inspires you. And it's always something that you keep getting drawn back to, right? When we listen to a song we really like, we don't hear the song, we feel it. You know, you're always going to keep playing that song. What's the most play counts you guys had on one song? It does not be mine, I swear. Raise your hand. I know, check the last FM. I had 1,100 play counts over one summer on one song. I swear I'm not Stanley Kubrick crazy, but I was really obsessed with it and I was infatuated with it. And
What song?
it's the band called Fast Forward. Anybody know that band? It's like LA, like super underground punk band. They were from this band called FM Bats. Some of the guys or whatever, but the song is called In the Toilet. Actually, I have a secret link to it on my website. There's no sound, right?
I think
It's probably better
there should be
if there's
some.
no sound. Okay. So if you actually go on my LinkedIn, it's okay. You guys can check it out later. It's just completely just noise. But I actually can't count the play counts now because I probably played it so many times on YouTube myself. But I think these are the things these recurring themes in your work, whether it's something you revisit or whatever, this shows that you're obsessed with something. And I think that's what we're always going to be drawn to is you see what somebody is into and interested in, and that becomes your style as well. And whether you realize it or not, I actually didn't realize a lot of the things that were recurring themes in my work until other people brought it to my attention, where maybe I had my first interview or blog post or something, and someone literally says, hey, you do this, this, and this, and I didn't realize because I'm genuinely obsessed with those things, and they just come out in strange ways. But I think what's really good about recurring themes as well is they play a really important role in how people will identify with your body of work as a whole later on as well. There's some pretty good recurring themes in, let's say, Tarantino movies. I think Stanley Kubrick has recurring themes as well. And I'm trying to think of I had a really good one. There's somebody that actually had a hidden message in every single one of their films. If you guys remember, let me know. But recurring themes are important. So I think also individuality isn't just about having one specific visual style. I would say the best type of individuality is a sense of authorship. So I think what's great about, there's designers and artists that have one specific, I think maybe technique or execution or plan of attack. But I arguably would say the best designers and artists have some really immense level of versatility, but you can always pin down that they did it. And I think that's a sense of authorship that is never going to be forgeable. That's going to be the hardest signature to forge. I don't have any slides of examples of this, but you guys probably have your own examples of who is somebody that has done things from a different range completely, whether it's medium, whether it's film or design or a book, to product design or styles, colors, imagery, typography. I think that flexibility is really important, and you guys should always try to explore and experiment how to communicate your ideas through different techniques, and find what that authorship is. So I think some characteristics of my individuality, if I had to guess, and also based on reading some of the interviews about me, apparently I'm goth. Okay.
It's like it's a feeling.
It's a feeling, dude. Like goth is a feeling.
It's a texture.
It's a texture. I like that, goth is a texture. So, but in general, yeah, I think those are some recurring themes are textures, specific textures that are usually destroyed a little bit or a little bit messed up. Another characteristic is subversion. I really like to, whether it's inverting an image or rotating it or flipping it on its head or taking it out of its context, I think that's something that's really important in my work. Let me find some examples of this. Here's also a recurring theme image that is something I actually didn't realize I used so many times until last week when I was helping write this, but there's this very specific image, and it's here. It's a very low-res version of the image, but this is actually a photo of a t-shirt. So when I was 15, my first girlfriend bought me a t-shirt on eBay. It was like my first eBay issues watch item. And I sent it to her, and I said, hey, like, this shirt's awesome. And it was an original 1990s, like, Wu-Tang, like, beefy tee, all crooked, washed badly, of Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. It had a photo of the whole group on the front and the back of this big sword through a book. It was so sick. And I don't have the shirt anymore. It's gone for moving. But all I had was this photo of it. So this photo is actually somehow in a lot of my work. Here's a skateboard that's going to come out at the LA Art Book Fair. I did with these guys, Actually Sourced, maybe you've heard of them. So we're releasing a skateboard deck with the image on there. This is a painting I recently did last year in October. So this is a full like 42-inch pigment painting, and I have like a series of 3 of these, and they all have different sort of sections of the picture. And here's a C-print I did of the picture 3 years ago. It's just this folder on my desktop of a few things that I keep going back to. And I didn't realize how many times I overused it until I just started going through my work for this. But those are the type of things when you're truly obsessed with something, it'll just come out in strange ways, and sometimes it takes other people to notice them for you. But basically, be obsessed and be infatuated, and I think that's going to be the best way to find real creativity from within yourself. And feed your creativity through your own individuality. So learn what your dualities are, what your characteristics are, what you're into, I think it's really important at a certain age or level or as students to research and like find a lot of references and things like this. But at a certain point, you're probably going to want to just discard all this because you're going to absorb only so much information. And the more you look at current things or things that other designers are doing, I think it's bad for your creativity. And you're going to want to focus on whether it's looking at vintage books or just kind of logging off the internet once in a while and digging through your shoebox of old memories. This is where some of the best ideas of mine have come from, and I encourage you guys to do the same. Look within yourself for all those. So that's it. Channel your creativity from within, and thank you so much.